The first thing I remember wasn't light. It was sound. A long, violent scream cutting through the dark, metallic, relentless, wrong. At first, I thought it was a dream. One of those nightmares where your body knows something terrible is happening before your brain catches up. Then the pain hit. White hot. Right through my chest. Like someone lit a fire inside me and didn't bother putting it out. My body jerked so hard I thought it snapped in half. Muscles locked, jaw clenched. I couldn't scream even if I wanted to. Then, nothing. Silence. Not peaceful, just empty. For a split second, I was sure I was dead. But death, I realized, doesn't come with buzzing lights. I opened my eyes to cheap fluorescent bulbs buzzing overhead, flickering like they were just as tired as I was. The ceiling tiles were stained, cracked in places. Real, ugly, familiar. Hospital. My throat burned when I tried to swallow, dry as sandpaper. My tongue felt like it had been glued to the roof of my mouth. I blinked. Once. Twice. The world slid in and out of focus like an old TV struggling to catch a signal. Then a face leaned into view. A man. Late 30s, maybe? Brown skin, short beard, the kind of tired eyes you only get from long shifts and too many emergencies. His name tag read Marcus. He noticed I was awake immediately. "Hey," he said, softly, like loud noises might break me. "Easy, man. Don't move." His voice wasn't rushed. That told me more than his words ever could. Something bad had happened. "What?" My voice came out rough, barely a sound. Marcus smiled, but it wasn't the kind that reaches your eyes. "You gave us a scare, but you're back." Back. The word landed heavy. I tried to move my hands. Nothing happened. Panic rose fast, sharp and sudden. "Relax," he said quickly. "You're hooked up. IV, monitors, that's normal." Normal. I wanted to laugh. Instead, my chest screamed again. I sucked in air like I'd been underwater too long. Marcus placed a hand on my shoulder. Steady, firm. "You had a cardiac arrest in the parking lot. Someone called it in fast. You're lucky." Lucky. That word didn't fit either, because all I could think about was the last thing I remembered before the dark took me. I'd been standing outside my truck, keys in my hand, thinking about milk. Stupid, ordinary milk. Then nothing. No warning. No dramatic pain like in the movies. Just gone. "How long?" I asked. Marcus hesitated, just a fraction of a second. "Yeah, about 4 minutes before we got a pulse back." 4 minutes. I stared at the ceiling again. 4 minutes is a lifetime when your heart isn't beating. I felt exposed, fragile, like something inside me had cracked open and everyone could see it. "You're safe now," Marcus said. "Just rest." Safe. The word echoed in my head, hollow and unconvincing, because safe doesn't mean untouched, and it definitely doesn't mean unchanged. As Marcus stepped away, machines beeped steadily around me, rhythmic, mechanical, keeping time like my heart needed supervision now. That's when it hit me. I was alive, and I had no idea why, or what I was supposed to do with that fact. A nurse came in, adjusted something, asked my name. "Daniel," I said. Saying it felt strange, like I was borrowing someone else's identity. "Do you know where you are, Daniel?" "Hospital," I croaked. She nodded. "Good. Do you know what day it is, Daniel?" I paused. "Tuesday? No. Wednesday." "I think," I said. "That's okay. You're doing fine." But I didn't feel fine. I felt stripped, like whatever shield I'd been walking around with for years, Routine, control, confidence. It was gone. When the room finally quieted, I was alone. No machines talking, no footsteps, just the hum of electricity in my own breathing. I stared at my hands. They looked the same, but they weren't. These hands had failed me. My chest tightened, not with pain this time, but with something colder. Fear. Not of dying, of surviving. Because surviving meant facing everything I'd been running from. The job I hated but never left, the marriage I kept telling myself was fine, the way I always said I'd slow down next year. Next year almost didn't come. A doctor stopped by later, older guy, gray hair, calm voice. Your heart took a hit. We'll run more tests. Lifestyle changes will be important. Lifestyle. Another word that felt too small for what had just happened. What caused it? I asked. He shrugged lightly. Could be stress, genetics, build-up over time. Over time. That's when it clicked. This didn't come out of nowhere. This was years in the making. Every late night, every ignored warning, every time I told myself I'd deal with things later. Later almost killed me. When he left, I closed my eyes. For the first time since waking up, I let the truth sink in. I wasn't spared. I was interrupted. And whatever came next wasn't going to be optional.
They discharged me 3 days later. Not because I was ready, because insurance said I was. That's how it works. You don't heal, you get cleared. A nurse wheeled me to the front doors like I was luggage someone forgot to pick up. The automatic doors slid open and cold air slapped me in the face. Real air. I paused there for a second, breathing it in like I needed proof the world still existed. My brother Jake pulled up in my truck. Same truck, same dent on the bumper, same smell of old coffee and motor oil inside. Everything looked normal. That should have comforted me. It didn't. "You good?" Jake asked, trying to sound casual. I nodded. "Yeah, just tired." That was the lie I'd use for a while. The drive home was quiet, not awkward, heavy, like both of us were afraid to say the wrong thing and crack something open we couldn't put back. "You scared the hell out of us," he said finally. "Yeah," I said. "Me too." He laughed once, short and nervous, then went quiet again. When we pulled into my driveway, the house looked exactly the same. White siding, faded blue door, the porch light still busted, flickering like it always did. I stared at it longer than I should have. This house had watched me leave every morning like nothing could touch me. Turns out, it was wrong. Inside, everything smelled familiar, cleaner mixed with old wood and whatever my wife cooked last. My chest tightened, and not from my heart this time. Linda stood in the kitchen. She froze when she saw me. Then she rushed over and hugged me too tight, like if she let go I'd vanish again. "I scared you," she whispered into my shoulder. "I know," I said. But what I didn't say was this. Something felt off. Not wrong, exactly, just distant. Like I was standing in my own life, but looking through glass. They made a big deal about me sitting down. Water, pills, instructions printed in tiny font no one ever reads. "You're supposed to rest," Linda said, hovering. "I'm fine," I said. Another lie. That night I couldn't sleep. My body was exhausted, but my brain wouldn't shut up. Every sound felt louder. Every heartbeat felt borrowed. Around 2 a.m. I got up and walked into the living room. The recliner creaked under my weight. Same one I'd fallen asleep in 100 times watching late-night TV. I stared at the walls. Family photos, vacations, smiles. Proof of a life that looked solid from the outside. I noticed something then. Something small. A stack of mail on the side table. Unopened. That wasn't like Linda.
She was organized, on top of things, bills paid early, files labeled. I picked up the stack. Final notice, past due, urgent response required. My name. I frowned. Maybe it was a mistake. I told myself that a lot back then. The next morning, Linda left early to run errands. I watched her pull out of the driveway through the window. That same uneasy feeling crawled up my spine again. I grabbed the mail, opened one, then another, then another. My hands started to shake. Credit cards I didn't recognize, balances I definitely didn't remember, late fees stacked on late fees. I sat down hard. My chest felt tight again, and panic flared hot and fast. I checked the dates. Months. Some years. No way. Linda handled the finances, yeah, but we'd talked, or at least I thought we had. I told myself there had to be an explanation. There always is. I walked into the office, opened the filing cabinet. Folders everywhere. Too many. I pulled one at random. Loan documents. My signature at the bottom. Only, it wasn't my signature. It looked like mine, but it wasn't. I felt cold. Not scared yet, just numb. That's when I heard the garage door. Linda was back. I didn't move. She walked in, keys clinking, humming like it was any other morning. Then she saw me sitting there, the folder open, the papers spread out. Her face drained of color. "Dan," she said slowly, "I can explain." And right then, before she said another word, I understood something terrifying. My heart didn't fail me. It warned me, and I was about to learn just how long I'd been living inside a lie.
Linda didn't sit down. She stood there across from me, hands clenched, eyes darting between my face and the papers like they might explode if she looked too long. "I was going to tell you," she said. That sentence hit harder than yelling would have. I held up one of the documents. "Tell me what, exactly?" She swallowed, hard. "The things got complicated." Complicated. That's the word people use when they don't want to say ruined. "How long?" I asked. She hesitated. That hesitation told me more than any confession could. "How long?" Her voice dropped. "A few years." I laughed, not because it was funny, because my brain didn't know what else to do. "A few years," I repeated. "You forged my name for a few years?" She flinched at the word forged. "I didn't think of it like that," she said quickly. "I thought of it as temporary, just until things stabilized." "Stabilized?" I snapped. "Linda, I died for 30 seconds last week. You want to talk about stability?" She started crying. Not loud, controlled, the kind of crying meant to soften edges. "I was trying to protect you," she said. "You were stressed. The business was slowing down. I didn't want you to worry." I stood up slowly. My legs felt weak, but anger held me upright. "You protected yourself," I said. "You robbed me of the truth." She shook her head. "I love you." "I know. That's what makes this worse." Silence stretched between us, heavy, sticky. I looked down at the papers again. Credit cards, personal loans, a line of credit against the house. Our house. "Did you spend it?" I asked. "No," she said quickly. "Not on anything stupid. I was investing, trying to grow it back." That made my stomach turn. "So you kept digging," I said, deeper and deeper, hoping no one would notice. She didn't answer. That was answer enough. I walked past her and went outside. The air felt sharp, like it could cut through skin. I sat on the porch steps, elbows on my knees, staring at the cracked concrete. I'd trusted this woman with my life, literally. And somewhere along the way, she'd decided trust meant ownership. She came out a few minutes later, stood behind me. "I was scared," she said softly. Every time I thought about telling you, I imagined you leaving. I didn't turn around. You should have imagined the truth, because lies rot from the inside out. That night I slept on the couch, not dramatically, just separated, like two strangers sharing the same house. The next day I called a lawyer, not because I wanted revenge, because I needed air. His name was Peter Klein, mid-50s, calm voice, no nonsense. After I explained everything, there was a long pause. "Dan," he said finally, "this is serious." "I know." "No," he said, "you don't. You could lose the house, your retirement. They'll argue marital benefit." "So even though I didn't know, they won't care," he finished. That night I told Linda I was staying at my brother's for a while. She cried again. "I never meant to hurt you." "I believe you, but intent doesn't erase damage." Jake didn't ask many questions. He just handed me a beer and said, "You look like hell." "Yeah," I said. "Turns out dying was the easy part." Days passed, then weeks. Lawyers, bank calls, letters with bold red warnings. Linda texted me every day. I answered less and less, not out of spite, out of survival. One afternoon, Peter called. "We found something," he said. My chest tightened. "What?" He continued. "There's a document, a loan you supposedly signed 2 years ago, but the signature, it's sloppy, not even close." I closed my eyes. "So?" he said. "So it helps. If we can prove a pattern of forgery, this changes everything." For the first time since the hospital, I felt something close to hope. But hope is dangerous, because every time it rises, it reminds you of what you might still lose. That night, Linda called. Her voice sounded different, flat. "They froze the accounts," she said. "I can't access anything." "I know," I said. "My lawyer called." There was silence. Then she whispered, "I'm scared." I thought about the man I used to be, the one who would have rushed in to fix it, to carry it, to bleed quietly. "I know," I said, "but I can't carry this anymore." When the call ended, I sat there in the dark, heart still beating, barely, but beating. And for the first time, I realized something terrifying and freeing at the same time. Surviving the heart attack didn't save my life. It exposed it. And whatever came next was going to cost me something, either the truth or myself.
The lawsuit didn't explode. It crept, like mold behind a wall, quiet, patient, destructive. Peter warned me it would be slow, but nothing prepares you for watching your life get dissected, line by line, by people who don't know you and don't care if you survive the process. Depositions, affidavits, bank representatives who talked about my marriage like it was a failed business model. They asked questions like, did you benefit from the funds? Did you enjoy an improved lifestyle? Were you willfully ignorant? Willfully ignorant. That one stuck. Like loving someone too much was a crime. Linda's lawyer tried to paint me as passive, weak, a guy who let his wife handle things because it was convenient. I wanted to scream. I wanted to stand up and shout that trust is not negligence. But courtrooms don't care about feelings. They care about leverage. And leverage comes from paper. At night, I barely slept. My chest still ached sometimes. Not sharp, just this dull reminder that my heart wasn't invincible anymore. I stopped answering Linda's messages altogether. Not because I hated her, because every message reopened a wound that hadn't even started to close. One afternoon, Peter called me into his office. He shut the door. That's never a good sign. They're pushing hard, he said. The bank wants a settlement. Meaning? I asked. They want the house, or a massive cash repayment. I laughed, a hollow sound. I don't have massive cash. I know, he said. That's why this is pressure. I stared at the floor. That house wasn't just wood and brick. It was Sunday mornings, burnt coffee,
Christmas lights I never took down on time. It was proof I'd built something that lasted. And now it was on the chopping block because I trusted the wrong person. Peter leaned forward. "There's another option," he said. I looked up. "We take this public," he continued. "We prove fraud aggressively. But that means exposure, media, people knowing your business." I hesitated. I'd spent my whole life avoiding attention, being quiet, reliable, invisible. Going public felt like ripping my chest open again. "What happens to her?" I asked. Peter didn't dodge it. "She'll face consequences, legal ones." I swallowed. For a long moment, I saw Linda the way she used to be, laughing in the kitchen, falling asleep during movies, holding my hand in hospital waiting rooms. Then I saw the forged signatures, the lies stacked year after year, and I realized something ugly but true. Protecting her was costing me my life. "Do it," I said. The fallout was immediate. Subpoenas, investigations, an expert witness confirmed the signatures were fake. The word fraud entered the conversation officially. Linda called me after the filing, screaming, crying. "You're destroying me," she shouted. "No," I said quietly. "I'm stopping myself from disappearing." She hung up. I didn't call back. The media never fully picked it up, but whispers spread. Friends chose sides. Some stopped calling altogether. Turns out silence is loyalty's favorite test. Money got tight, really tight. I sold my second car, canceled subscriptions I forgot I even had, started counting groceries like a college kid again. That's when I took a job at a warehouse. Nothing fancy. Early mornings, heavy boxes, younger guys who didn't know my story and didn't care I'd been through some stuff. At first, it bruised my ego. Then it grounded me. There's something honest about physical work when your life feels fake. One night, after a long shift, a guy named Ray handed me a bottle of water. "You all right, man? You look like you've been through some stuff." I nodded. "Yeah," I said. "Still here, though." He smiled. "That's the important part." That sentence followed me home. Still here. Weeks later, the ruling came. Partial victory. The judge acknowledged fraud. Some debts were dismissed. Others were still being contested. It wasn't a clean win, but it wasn't death either. I sat alone in my apartment that night. No TV, no noise, just breathing. And I realized something quietly monumental. I wasn't trying to go back to who I was before. That man trusted blindly. That man disappeared into responsibility. That man thought endurance meant silence. I was becoming someone else. Someone who asked questions. Someone who chose himself. Someone who understood that survival isn't selfish. It's necessary. My phone buzzed. A text from my daughter. "Dad, I didn't know who to believe before. I'm starting to understand now. Can we talk?" I closed my eyes, and for the first time since my heart stopped, I felt like my life was moving forward. Not fast, not clean, but forward. People think the end of a hard story is loud, a verdict, an apology, a moment where everything suddenly makes sense. That's not how it really ends. It ends on an ordinary morning. I woke up before my alarm, the way I do now. The apartment was quiet, no fighting thoughts, no panic in my chest, just silence that didn't feel dangerous anymore. I made coffee. Black. Too strong. Some habits stick. The court case wrapped up a few months later. Not with fireworks. Not with justice that felt poetic. Just paperwork. The remaining debts were officially ruled fraudulent. The banks backed off. The house was gone. But my name was clear. At my age, you learn the difference between winning and surviving. I didn't win. I endured. Linda took a plea deal. No jail, no public shame, just consequences. We never spoke again. Not because I hated her, but because some chapters don't need closure, just distance. My heart healed slowly. Cardiac rehab twice a week, walking laps with people who had also stared death in the face. One guy told me, "Funny thing is, man, surviving changes what scares you." He was right. I stopped being afraid of being alone, stopped being afraid of starting over, stopped being afraid of the truth. My daughter came by one Sunday afternoon. We sat on folding chairs in my living room, pizza boxes on the floor. "I used to think strength meant keeping things together," she said. "Now I think it means knowing when something's broken." I nodded. "Yeah," I said, "that took me a long time too." We didn't talk about her mother much anymore. Not because we forgot, but because we finally understood. Love doesn't erase harm, and harm doesn't erase love. Both can exist. I kept working. The warehouse, later a small hardware store closer to home. Simple job, honest work, no secrets. One night, a younger guy asked why I never talked much. I smiled. "Because quiet men don't explain," I said. "They finish things." On the anniversary of my heart attack, I went back to the hospital. Not for treatment, just to stand in the lobby for a minute. Same fluorescent lights, same beeping machines. Different man. I put my hand on my chest, not to check for pain, but to feel the rhythm. Still going. That night I wrote something down. Not a confession, not a warning, a reminder. Silence is only peaceful when it's chosen. Trust is not blindness, and endurance, real endurance, is knowing when to speak. If you're watching this and any part of it feels familiar, if you've been underestimated, if you've been lied to by someone you loved, if you've been carrying a weight in silence, remember this: you're not weak for trusting. You're not broken for surviving, and it's not too late to reclaim your life. Quiet men finish things. If this story meant something to you, hit like. It helps more than you know. Subscribe for more true-style stories about justice, resilience, and quiet strength. And comment below, where are you watching from, or what part of this story hit closest to home? You're not alone. And the quiet ones always have the last word.